Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of In the Prog Seat. We're continuing on with the alphabet. Today, we have arrived at the letter I. But before we get started, let's introduce the cast here. We've got Chad Hutchinson, Stephen Reed. We're keeping him up late all the way from Scotland. George Lemay. Our center square is Chuck Alvarez. Chuck, you're like center square like every week. You ever notice? All right, we got more from New Yorkers here. Eric Porter. We've got the professor of Prague, Ken Golden. And our second Chicagoan here, Mr. Louis Nasser. Greetings, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hey, what's up?
Good evening.
Everybody getting ready for Fall Fest?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Can't wait.
Unfortunately, the only member of this crew that will not be at Fall Fest is only because he lives so damn far away. Mr. Stephen Reed, if we do another one, we're going to get him here. We'll find a way.
We offered him a crate. He wouldn't take it.
Yeah, no breathing holes though.
Oh, no, we upped the offer. We've said breathing holes. I mean, there's negotiation, but yeah.
I mean, that costs extra, Stephen. What do you expect?
Yeah, I'll look offer the breathing holes after I passed out.
Well, we put one hole in there so we could poke you with a stick.
Yeah, well, how do you think we're going to feed him?
That's true. That's a good point.
You get him nutrients somehow, right? Long journey.
Wasting away here.
That's too bad. It's too. If I had the fuck you cash, it would be yours. But I don't.
So we'll see what happens with this one, and if we do another one, we'll do what needs to be done. So and just for those who haven't heard, unfortunately, Lewis's band Sonus Umbra will not be able to play the festival for all sorts of different reasons. But Lewis is still going to be here, and we needed a replacement. So at the 11th hour, because Rick Labonte is also going to be in attendance, Rick and Lewis and Eric are going to be doing a little acoustic trio of some material we don't know yet. We'll find out on Saturday. So that is happening. They'll be kicking off the evening session on Saturday, the musical portion of the session. So
That's right.
Best of Duran Duran.
there you go.
I am not saying anything.
Classics and yeah,
Top secret.
there you go. Top secret. So wait and see what happens. But what's not top secret tonight is going to be our favorite three bands, starting with I. I struggled with this. Yeah, me struggled with this one. Not a ton for me in the letter I, but I'm pretty happy with my top three. I know some have more than others here as far as picks and honorable mentions, but we'll have Chad kick us off. We'll go Chad, Stephen, George, Chuck, Eric. No, you're not chunky, Chuck. Eric, Ken, Lewis, and myself, and we'll go all round and round we go. So Chad, kick us off.
Okay, I'm going to go reach straight across the ocean and give Mr. Reed a nudge because I think he's going to like this one. And that is Iris. This is a side project by a guy named Sylvain Gouvenier. He was in a band called Arakeen. Yeah, there we go. And on bass is Pete Trewalis from Marillion, as well as Ian Mosley from Marillion. It's a very neo-progressive type album, all instrumental. Sylvain's a very good guitar player, real emotive lines. It's sort of 90s Marillion meets some IQ. It's a pretty solid album, top to bottom. Some of the best songs on here are things like Train to V, Memory of Eagle, and Crossing the Desert. This is the only album they made, came out in 1996, called Crossing the Desert. If you can hunt it down, I highly recommend it, especially if you like sort of the neo-prog side of things. And you don't have to worry about vocals, Eric.
There you go. All right, Stephen.
Okay, so I am starting with this, which is self-explanatory, isn't it? You can all tell. Or it came in the box set. It's like this, and it tells you that no, it doesn't. This is IEM. That's what it is. This is one of Stephen Wilson's many projects, and I bought the box set that's got all the albums in it. And I mean, the level of detail is none, not second to none. It's none. This is just pictures after picture after. There's barely a word in the whole thing, which is fitting, I suppose, because it is instrumental. So IEM, for anyone that haven't heard them, this is anyway. If you love early Porcupine Tree, you like a bit of space rock, kind of psych, a little bit of krautrock, I suppose, then I would suggest this is the Stephen Wilson project for you. The closest comparison to anything that he's done would be that kind of Moonloop, really early kind of era. It's quite uncompromising. I will admit that when I first got this box, I was absolutely stone cold on it. It took a long time to kind of settle in. It's very much headphone music. It's very much late at night music. It's very atmospheric. There's been 3 albums. There was a self-titled debut in 1996, and then 2 subsequent releases that came out both in 2001. Arcadia Sun, and then IEM Have Come For Your Children, which is this one here. And then there was, it all came out in this fancy box thing with 0 detail whatsoever. But they're really good. This is the only one that's kind of got other collaborators on it. He does everything in the band, and even this one is mainly him. There's Mark Simnett, there's Jeff Lee, Dave Anderson, and Colin Edwin are all involved on this one. And there's been nothing since. So 20 plus years, not a word. So IEM are my first pick. Really, really like this. This is one of my favourite Wilson projects. It took a long time to settle in.
Stephen, tell them what IEM stands for.
And what does IEM stand for?
Incredible Expanding Mindfuck.
Oh, there you go. I would tell you that, but there's no detail. Anyway, I don't think I mentioned that.
That was the name. That's what IEM stands for.
This is about as many words as you get in the entire thing. There's no detail whatsoever. I mean, to give you an idea, I mean, the tracks on this one are called things like, I think, track 1, track 2, track 3, and there are 6 tracks on. But it's worth it. It is worth it. The message is all there because that's really what the music is like. It doesn't need words.
Does the pretentiousness reach the point where they skip a number? Like they go from track 4 to track 6, but no 5?
No, but they like to let you think they have.
I see. I'm pretty sure, though, that if there is to be new incredible expanding mindfuck music, it will either not have Stephen Wilson or Colin Edwin.
Well, that's a distinct possibility.
But since we don't even really know who's in it, we don't even know if Stephen Wilson is in it.
I was going to say, man, there's so little information on this band, and
maybe that's part of the mindfuck. You just think he's there.
Are there any Stephen Wilson fans who even know of this band? And I've never even heard of these guys.
Never even heard of it. Well, none of this really exists. This is all a figment of my imagination.
I have the vinyl of the first one. I bought it when it came out.
I never heard of this before.
Wow.
You would like it. You'd probably like it. I mean, it's good space rock.
I think I have one of those on vinyl somewhere, actually.
Yeah, it's good.
It is really, I mean, all joking aside, it is all really good. It takes a bit to get into, but it's all really good.
Cool. Well, learn something new.
Yeah, if you kind of like Sky Moves Sideways,
Yeah, I like
earlier
this
stuff.
Yeah, those are great records.
Sky Move Sideways and earlier. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to investigate. Cool. George is wearing a shirt today of a band that probably won't get talked about, but they are an I band.
My number 3 is a one and done, Impact Fuse. So Fusion Power Trio, guitar player and bassist from Russia, the drummers from France. This is the quintessential, the good songs make up for, there's a couple snoozy softies on here, but the good songs on this are annihilation. I didn't know you knew about it, Eric. Otherwise, I would say the 4 Fusion guys need to get this. This is
I can't find it, George. I've got it on
yeah,
Apple Music. But
self-released, and then it went out of print pretty quick. Just people should go on YouTube and listen to Punisher or Focused Power. That's the kind of stuff you get on here. Each guy is a nuclear player, ridiculously good, and the songwriting is good, except for those couple ballads are a little snoozy, and there's one unaccompanied guitar solo I could take or leave. It's good, but it's not another song. So yeah, Impact Fuse. There's even a tolerable vocal song on here, if you can believe it.
George, was that self-released?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Chuck.
All right. Once again, good evening, gentlemen. All right. My number 3 is what's probably be mentioned a few times over here. It's Iowa Earth, New World, one of the few British bands. That excellent band. That you can hear all type of influences on them, but it's one of the few rare English bands that actually have like where you could actually hear like a Kansas influence on them, at times, along with Jethro Tull. But these guys rock, and what you could also hear traces of Marillion in them. That just outstanding. What's a female vocals at times. Just one of those newer bands that just happens to be quite outstanding. But this is my favorite from all their albums, New World. I advise people to check that album out and check the band out. They're pretty good. Iowa Earth is my number 3.
They're playing here in 2 weeks.
Yes, I know about. Yeah, I heard about that.
Playing in Prog Seat.
Nice.
All right, that's my number 3.
Eric.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
My number 3 is Isildur's Bane. I am guilty with this band of, they have a lot and I don't have a lot of their stuff. I have, I think, 3 or 4. This one is my favorite, mine, Volume 1. The only thing with this one is it's holistic medicine. There's a track where I think over the music, he's like reciting chess moves or something. That's my guess on that, like Queen's level 5 to King 3 or whatever. Other than that, this is great. There's a lot of varied instrumentation. There's cello, there's horns, there's some great guitar on this. Really good instrumental band. As far, at least on this one, I don't know if they have vocals. I know they worked with Hogarth and my favorite Peter Hamill. So I'm assuming on some of their other stuff that they do have vocals, which I don't have any of that, but this is fantastic. And like I said, I have a couple others. It was nice to dive back into the Eyes because I had not listened to this in quite a long time, but excellent stuff here from them. Isildur's Bane.
Yep.
Cool.
There's like 3 different phases with that band.
I didn't realize how long their career had.
Yeah, the first phase was when they were an instrumental symphonic rock band. It's a little lightweight, but good. And then Mind, the one you have, that's great. And then they sort of morphed into this sort of, everybody calls it like a chamber rock sound. I don't know, but it's got like a classical influence. And now they're working with vocalists that did a really nice album with Steve Hogarth.
Yep.
Steven, I said something nice about Steve Hogarth.
You did, absolutely.
And then they did 2 albums with Peter Hamill. So it's like, those are like the 3 different, always very creative band.
Ken.
So I'm going for the low hanging fruit first, because I figure we're all going to pick this one. So I guess I'll be the first one. And you guys might be surprised, but I think this band is pretty great. IQ.
Yes.
So I got into the whole neo-prog thing, the new wave of British progressive rock when it started in the early 80s. I was one of the first guys on the block. I was the first kid on the block to own a Marillion, and I was into IQ and Palace and Pendragon, all those bands. IQ was the band I liked the least. And over time, they're now the band by far I like the most. I thought the first albums to me, the early albums to me, were kind of like Genesis knockoffs. Just didn't do much. Subterranea is the one that really clicked for me. Yeah, I mean, Steve, for me, that's just a little bit early. It's not bad, but Subterranea, I hate to call it their lamb. People call it that, I guess, because it was a double. But I thought Subterranea was very, very good. Martin Orford left the band, and I hate to say it, I think they got better.
Yep, I agree. 100%.
Neil Durant is a great keyboard player. He uses a lot of old school sounds, a lot of mellotron. You hear, organ and synths. Peter Nichols, I think, is a fantastic vocalist. And having seen them live, Chad, you had them at Nearfest, right?
Twice.
Yeah. So I saw them there, and they were just incredibly powerful. And I thought this album, The Road of Bones, this is a badass album.
Yeah, it is.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, just top to bottom, it's really good. I need to spend more time with Resistance. I kind of neglected it, but this one really good band. IQ. That just funny because I lost interest in Marillion. I lost interest in Palace and Pendrag and all those bands. IQ was the band I had the least interest in, and I have by far the most interest in now.
I feel like you guys are shaming me into buying that record.
Oh,
I saw them live many times. Saw them at Nearfest, and I saw them at Baja, and I just couldn't get into the singing.
Yep. I think he's a.
It's
I
a little
thought
acquired taste, but
I
I
thought
like
on
it.
stage.
I like it.
On stage, I thought he was a masterful singer. I thought he had total command of the stage.
My issue with these bands is that the guys who play in these bands are all fucking great people. Like John Jowett when he was with them. He's one of the best people that I know in that
Lovely guy.
scene. I fucking love that dude, right? And everybody you meet, they're just great guys. So it always sort of hurts me that I don't have very many flattering things to say about their music, because I have lots of very flattering things to say about them, you know.
Mhm.
But I stopped listening, in all fairness, to IQ after Subterranean.
Yeah, see, I'm with Ken. Risk of getting ahead of myself. I think you would like this.
I've started to think that I am feeling a lot of mental pressure now.
Yeah,
Luis,
Uncomfortably so.
Luis, I
I'll
demand.
maybe explain why later.
Of all the albums, I think that will probably be the best album for Lewis to get into.
Yeah.
That one
It's-
specifically. That one specifically.
Yes.
I-
Maybe,
you know you like
Ken will
dark
slip you a
music.
copy
Yeah.
at SOT Fest. What do you think?
It is kind of dark, you know. There's a dark. There is a dark quality, I think, to a lot of their music.
Yeah, I
There
think
is.
from Dark Matter on, I think there's a
Dark
there's
Matter was a great record.
Yes.
You know, that's where, like I said, I like Subterranea very much. I was really impressed by it. Dark Matter, that really clicked for me. And then going on from there, I'm like, man, these guys are good.
So I was also very happy with the Andy Edwards as the drummer for the band. Which I
Yeah.
always thought that Andy Edwards was far superior to Peter Cook as a drummer, you know, and he didn't stick around long enough, and so, but he was a great drummer.
You know, he had a YouTube channel he had to start, you know.
Still does. Mhm.
Very busy guy, you know.
All right, Lewis.
All right. So I was having real trouble picking my number 3, because I have 2 bands that I like equally for that spot. So objectively, I don't really have a way of choosing, but sentimentally, I guess I'm gonna have to go with Izz or IZZ. I don't know how you pronounce it. I cannot be entirely objective because I'm friends with the Galgano brothers,
Mhm.
Brian,
Brian,
you know,
and
these
Laura.
are great human beings, all of them, and but they're also really good musicians, and we've played lots of shows. We've been on the same bill multiple times. They're just great guys, right? And in particular, I chose The Darkened Room because this record has a song in it called 23 Minutes of Tragedy.
Mhm.
And they offered up a special live version of this recording in Quebec for the record we put out for Norm. So then this just became an obvious choice. The Darkened Room is. I love them. Don't let the fact that their name is disturbingly close to something else to be added J. Just listen to it, play the music, and really just go for it, because there's so much good stuff in there, right? Male and female vocals, really good.
I saw them at Prog Day 2002, and we were forced indoors because of rain, and we were in an auditorium at a high school or something, or whatever.
High school. It was a high school.
Yeah. So I forget if they were the first day or second day, but they did one of the coolest, classiest things I've ever seen at a festival. During their set, the power went out.
Wow.
So the Galgano brothers and Laura Mead came to the front of the stage. The 2 guys sat down on the edge of the stage with their acoustic instruments and continued their set. just acoustically without even missing a beat. And
That's
it was
cool.
awesome.
That's
They really did a really very cool thing that day.
Yeah. At Nearfest, at that infamous party, John and Tom Galgano were playing some Peter Gabriel and things to get things started. Remember, back in those days? Yeah. They're great people. Great
very nice guy.
people.
Good live. I think I saw him play with Frog Cafe in New York City like a long time ago.
Yeah, I think they played together a lot.
They played together.
Yeah. All right, my number 3. I'm not going to say a ton about this band because I have a feeling they're going to be in Ken's list, and he probably can tell you a lot more about them than I can. One and done band. This album came out in 1977 from Switzerland. The band is called Islands, or Island. Sorry, not Islands.
Just Island.
And Pictures. Very cool band. Very reminiscent. I don't know. When I listen to them, they were kind of like this weird hybrid of like Van der Graaf Generator and Gentle Giant. It's very quirky, complex music, kind of a little darker, but kind of Canterbury-ish in spots. Got sax and flute and keyboards and, really unique vocalist and a really, really cool band. And, it's got H.R. Giger artwork on the album, and that's a plus. And it was released way, way back on Razor's Edge.
The old logo.
Yes.
What number is that one, Ken?
Shit. I don't know. 25?
Would that be
Oh,
on
that
here?
far through? Really?
Is it LE 1025? I don't remember.
I
On
don't
the
know.
spine. Look on the spine. Should have it.
1024.
24.
I thought it was earlier than that. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was
I thought you were making that shit up like half the bands in your honorable mention. I'm very impressed, Ken.
no. No, you don't, Louis, seriously, you don't know that album?
No, I don't.
Oh, you
Yeah.
love it.
I'm getting more pressure still.
You would love that. I'll poke around to see if I have any copies. I don't think I do. I really don't,
Right.
but I'll see if I do. But it's we put an unreleased track, a 22-minute unreleased track called Empty Bottles on there that that was, I think it was recorded live while they were rehearsing in the studio. And it was funny, Peter Scherer, the keyboard player, became like a big deal on the New York underground, like the New York loft scene, New York underground scene. I remember contacting him about getting the rights to the album. He didn't want to help me at all. He was like, he wanted nothing to do. He absolutely washed his hands of that album. But we had the master tapes. We had the original master tapes. I did it with Bob Katz in Manhattan, and and then I met Giger. I met Giger in Switzerland years later, and I mentioned it to him. And
No guitar.
No guitar.
It's keyboards, vocal, drums, and
guitar, no air.
wood.
I can see it.
It's in Eric's Hall of Fame.
Yeah. But I'm a lot like Eric a lot of times. If it doesn't have guitar, I'm kind of like, but you don't really miss it on this album. It's quite good. Quite good. Steven, really good. Sorry.
Intense album.
Steven.
Very dark. Very dark.
He's wondering
I
why.
was waiting to see if you caught my quite good comment, but
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
good.
No, I didn't.
I
Sorry,
got it.
excuse me. There you go. So you mean really good,
really, that's why I said
Really good.
really good. Yes, really good.
phenomenal, fantastic, and quite good.
For those wondering what the hell we're talking about, you haven't watched the last couple of UK Connection shows. So anyway,
They're great.
there is a difference between quite good here in the States and in the UK. So
Yeah, see, Pete says it's quite good, whereas we say, yeah, it's quite good.
I love that. I love that sarcasm. It's a beautiful thing.
yeah. All right, back to Chad.
All right, my number 2. This might be in Luis's wheelhouse. Hopefully you know these guys. And I just realized I grabbed the wrong album, but still, it doesn't matter. The band is from Canada. I saw them at FMPM 2010, I believe, and that is Interference Sardines.
I don't know them.
Ah, you will very much like them. Avant RIO. Lot of violin. There's certainly a sense of humor in there. They're pretty nutty. They were phenomenal live. They were the number 1 band I wanted to see at FMPM that year. And they
What
were
nationality is that group? Where are they
Canada.
from?
They're
Canadian.
Yeah, I think they're French Canadian. This is
Québécois.
their last one called Spot de Rue, so they're French. The album I wanted to pull out is called Zucchini, the one before this, which I actually like better. But great stuff. Again, all instrumental. They only have 3 albums. They've done nothing since 2008. But I would definitely start with Zucchini, then go to Spot Duru, and then I actually don't have their first one. So highly recommended on the wacky RAO avant side of things. Interference Sardines.
And that gets my vote for the weirdest band name we're likely to hear today.
Those guys are great. They're awesome.
No, I might be able to top that.
Really? All righty then.
Maybe we'll see.
He's working on making it up. Give him about 10 minutes.
Yeah, give me a few minutes. I got to post it here.
He has a word salad generator working right now.
Yes.
It's coming. Yeah.
All right, Stephen.
Okay, so my number 2 is a band with 2 distinct eras. It's It Bites.
Yes.
Is who I've gone with. I mean, there's the 80s era fronted by Francis Dunnery, who, I suppose for want of a better turn of phrase, kind of fell apart a little bit and went and did his own thing, which has been very good and very interesting. And then the band got back together between 2008 and 2012. They were fronted by John Mitchell, who Lonely Robot, Arena, everything. He plays in everything, basically. And he seemed to get bored and went and did his own thing, for want of a better term of phrase. The 2 eras are linked by John Beck on keyboards and Bob Dalton on drums. They were the only 2 that were ever present across the 5 albums that the band put out. They debuted in 1986 with The Lad in the Big Windmill, not the catchiest of album titles, it has to be said. And they had, for want of a better turn of phrase, the misfortune to have a top 10 hit here in the UK with Calling All the Heroes, which is a pretty straight-ahead, keyboard-driven rock song with hooks to burn and a really intricate instrumental section, which was removed from the single.
Of course.
And there lies the problem, because the song itself is 6 minutes plus. Not many singles are, unless you're Bohemian Rhapsody, realistically going to be that long. And really, from there, they seem doomed to confuse, because they were a much more progressive outfit than anyone that bought the single wanted them to be. But for anyone that liked a little bit of progressive music, they were that hits band. And that is never, ever going to meet in the middle somewhere. For me, the early sound, yes, it takes a lot from the 80s pop scene. There's no 2 ways about that. But it's strongly influenced, or at least informed, by Genesis, a little bit of Yes, and a little bit of Gentle Giant, but maybe even some Prince as well. It's a really unusual mix with It Bites. And I think the main thing at that point was they really didn't care what they sounded like. They just were making music that they liked. They happened to have some success with it. Their 3rd album, Eat Me in St. Louis, turned out to be a hard rock album. And that confused people further. And really, it was just, I mean, it's almost like a progressive Dan Reed network. It's just a bizarre way to watch a band just rapidly undo themselves more than anything else. And somehow they still seemed on the edge of success. And then they just fell apart. So then Beck would team up with Pete Troavis from Marillion, there's that name again, and John Mitchell in a band called Kino. And that evolved really after a really good album into It Bites Mark II. Musically, the era with this and then the 2 new albums have nothing to do with each other. If you were to listen to some of it back to back, you wouldn't even realise it's the same band. And this era is where the gold lies, in my humble opinion. And it's kind of been forgotten about because they came back with 2 really good albums, it has to be said, if you like that kind of modern UK scene of progressive rock, which I definitely do. But these albums are just completely forgotten about more than anything else, the first 3. And they're really good. They're lots of fun. Yes, there's lots of hooks. Yes, it's poppy. But man, oh man, they can play. And they don't waste that. And they don't overuse it at the same time. They kind of fall between so many different ideas, so many different scenes. They should never even have been as big as they were, but the hit single killed them. So my number 2 is It Bites.
Cool. George.
My number 2 is from Greece, Implosion. This is a Greek quartet, strongly in the Awake era Dream Theater mold. If you're someone that laments the path that Dream Theater's taken and you want to hear the old stuff, this is totally your thing. A little more raw and I would say much better vocals, which is unusual because the singer is not on here. He had a Greek military commitment, so they pushed the keyboardist into vocal duty, and I'm shocked that he's not an actual singer because he's really good. Good usage of harmonies with himself. Just a real solid performance from him on here. He might be the feature actually, because they're not like show off guys. Less so than Dream Theater anyway. I wanted to ask Ken, this is on Steel Gallery. I actually won this on PMX from Argo. He said, yeah, he said he was working with him at the time. I wondered if you knew anything about that.
I don't. How old is it?
2008.
I don't remember it. I don't know if maybe I sold it even. I don't know. I don't remember anything about it.
You don't have this, Pete? This is right up your alley.
No.
Explosion. The album's called Lucidity and Quietus.
I never heard of him.
Okay.
Awesome.
Seems interesting. I'd say some I should catch up with.
Yeah. Chuck.
All right. I'm following Lewis's lead. I'm gonna go with Is as well as my number 2, The Darkened Room. I've seen them many times here live in the city. Every time that I've seen them, either whether it's been acoustic or whether or not it's been the full band, they've always brought a great show. What's a very distinctive band. They really don't sound like any of their peers. If they did sound like a band that you could probably compare them to is maybe perhaps Echoland without sounding like Echoland, because there's the dual vocals between the 2 women and the 2 female vocalists and then the male vocalist. And just musically, they're just an outstanding band with a lot of great hooks and melodies. And I think, in my opinion, this might be their finest hour amongst all the great albums that they have. The Darkened Room by Is my number 2.
Cool. All right, Eric.
My number 2, I'm following George. I'm also going with Impact Fuse. Trio, like George said, from Moscow. To me, and George, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they remind me of Morgable, the way they play when they have that intensity. I know that I like the softies on this for the most part. But like you said, they do kind of ease back. Morgable's usually full on, but that guitar player, I think it's Fyodor Dasimov. I tried to follow it. He's phenomenal. Not that the rest of the band isn't, but I tried finding some other stuff by him, and it sounds like he's kind of out of that more. It's almost more like I don't want to say Fusak, but the few things that I found with his name on it were a lot more reserved than what this is. And I don't know if he's got anything solo or if he's just playing with people, but I just found a few tracks. But this stuff is great. And like you said, I think it opens with, there's a vocal on the first track, but I don't think after that there's anything. There might be a little bit of background stuff. And like you said, there's definitely some more laid back material, but when these guys go for it, that's what I thought Morgable right away when I heard that they just have that intensity that Morgable has, and the guitar player just blew me away. And I know the bass player here, George, as well, and I've seen him on a couple of things you've sent. Is it Anton Davidance, or if that's how you say it?
I think David Diance, but who knows?
Okay. But that stuff just floored me. I think that had to have come from you, because I don't know where I would have found it otherwise. But great stuff, great trio, great fusion trio.
Cool. Yeah, I gotta check them out. Ken.
My number 2 pick. It's one of my favorite British albums. Haven't listened to it in a while. I'm enjoying doing these letters because I get to pull stuff out of the catalog, out of my collection, and I'm rediscovering things. So it's kind of neat. Indian Summer, British band. And quick history lesson. You're all familiar with the Vertigo label. Olav Wiper was an executive at Vertigo. He maybe actually started Vertigo for the Philips label. He left and he went to work for RCA, and he started the RCA Neon label. and somebody for sure is going to correct me. I believe there were only 9 releases on the label. Spring, Raw Material, Centipede, Ben. No, not Ben. Sorry, Ben was on Vertigo. But there were only, I think, 9 releases on the label. The band in the summer, they were managed by Jim Simpson, who also managed Black Sabbath. And the story is that Olaf Wiper actually tells the story on the inside is that Phillips could only sign one band between Indian Summer and Black Sabbath, so they signed Black Sabbath. And then when Wiper started RCA Neon, he signed Indian Summer. And in fact, I spoke to Jim Simpson about this many years ago because I tried to release this on CD before ultimately Repertoire reissued it on CD. And I think you could still find copies of it. Very, I guess everybody calls it proto-prog. That's what we call it now. Very heavy organ, mellotron, some great guitar work. It's been compared to Uriah Heep. It's more on the prog side of Uriah Heep. I like the vocals. I think just the first track is like an anti-religion track called "God Is the Dog," and it just kills. And it's just one of the great albums in my collection. I've always loved this album. This is a British copy. It actually got a US release, and Indian Summer, my number 2. Love it.
Thank you for reminding me of that, because I've long been wanting to get that, and for whatever reason I just kind of forget to.
I may have it. I may have it in stock. I don't know. Their Repertoire reissued it. It might have been like a Japanese reissue of it, but shouldn't be that hard to find it. I could let you know if I have it.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, great record.
Lewis.
Okay, my number 2 is a band that I guess it really is formally, or was formerly, a band, although it also included members from another project, which is more well known, called Riverside. This is a Polish band that I was very fortunate to be able to see play live at Nearfest, as I got a chance to see many bands. And it's also kind of bittersweet because the guitar player, who was one of the main reasons why I really enjoyed it, is no longer with us. So I'm talking about inductee Susar. This is another. I mean, it looks like we're doing a promotional work for Ken, but in reality,
it's about time. In
reality, as much as as every molecule might being resented, I do think there needs to be a shout out, because this guy, along with Steve Feigenbaum, have brought a lot of unbelievable music to the lives of many people.
Yep.
And I don't think that is said enough.
Thank you.
It's so just I'm not actually on the payroll. I've always been a customer and a musician, but also first and foremost a music fan. And this record and the follow-up, but this one in particular, is my entry to this band, and it has a very special place in the soundtrack of my life. So inductee Susar, fucking A.
Cool.
It's a little heavy, so if distorted guitar scares you, wear a diaper, but listen to it. It's
Chad,
very good.
Chad, thank you for having them.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They gave a great performance in your.
Amazing.
They were great.
Amazing.
Ken, let me know on that Indian Summer, because I've tracked down a copy, but I'd rather order it from you if you have it.
Yeah, I don't have it. I just
Nope.
looked. I don't have like this other thing, demos or whatever. Yeah, you
Okay.
should grab it.
No problem. I'll grab it. All right, my number 2. I haven't been able to track down my CDs, but I have both of them. This is a band from New York. They actually played at Nearfest. Band is called Ice Age, prog metal band, kind of like Dream Theater meets classic 70s era Styx.
Yep.
Nice amount of hooks in their music, good guitars and keyboards. The singer's got a powerhouse voice. They released The Great Divide in '99 and Liberation in 2001, and then disappeared off the face of the earth. But they are back, and I guess they signed with Ken's label Sensory, and I guess we'll be having an album this year. Or is it next year, Ken?
It's Josh Pincus, the singer and keyboardist. He's going to be here on Thursday. We're were going back and forth about the mastering of the album. They tracked it with Rich Mauser out in California, and he mixed it. And actually, I'm sorry, they tracked it on Long Island in their home studios. Rich just mixed it, and it's in the mastering process. January, February is what we're talking about.
Okay,
So,
well worth the
but
wait.
anyway, Josh is going to be over here 2 nights making him ribs. He's getting the golden ribs, and we're going to do a listening session.
Nice, awesome. Yeah,
Very good.
yeah. Ice Age, really good band. Either album is really good. I don't know which one I like the better of the two. They're both really good. The Great Divide was a really, really cool debut, and it was really interesting seeing them at Nearfest because I think they were probably a little too heavy for some of the folks in attendance. But I was totally into them, and then I was watching people walking out to the lobby and everything. Where you going, man? There's great bands on stage, but the Nearfest audience could be a little.
They needed their diaper changed.
Yes.
Everybody always compares Josh's vocals to Dennis DeYoung.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even mind. He said he was a Styx fan and he doesn't mind.
Yeah, that's one of the
worst comparison.
I mean, yeah, if you can sing in key that well, kudos to you, man. This is not an insult. No. If you can do
not at all.
Dennis DeYoung, fucking A.
And he still has it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you can imagine Dennis DeYoung singing prog metal, you got an idea of what Ice Age sounds like.
Yep. Absolutely.
Ken, please give Josh my regards.
I will do it.
Thank you.
Chad, back to you.
All right. Well, we're not going to belabor the point. Number one has already been talked about, probably relatively obvious for some of us, and that would be IQ. And I'm going to go with Dark Matter, which I mentioned before. This was the one that they were touring when they played Nearfest 05. They also played the inaugural Nearfest in '99, where Ice Age also played. They got to experience Moravian's strange stage setup, though it worked well for that first year, but then they got the big stage over at Lehigh for 2005. And they recorded a DVD there called Stage, which is the Nearfest show and a show that was done up in Montreal, I believe. Real nice double DVD set. And as Luis alluded to, super nice guys. Mike Holmes, great guitar player. Peter Nichols, great singer. He was a very personable guy. I got along very well with Martin Orford. I know I don't disagree that after he left, they kind of got darker and better. But real nice guys, super professional, fun to hang out with, and just watch out if you run into John Jowett. Just watch out. That's all I have to say.
He's my kind of guy.
Oh my
If you're
God!
watching John,
he is the definition of a piss. That guy is a piss.
yes, he is. That's why we love him.
Absolutely.
Steven, number one.
Well, I'm just going to follow on. I want to really IQ. What's not been said, not very much. So I'll just say that if you like early neo-prog and you like Genesis and things like that, as Ken alluded to, I even think the character in this has got a bit of Gabriel about them. I've always thought that when I look at it. Okay, then you've got The Wake, The Lush Attic. If you like things a little bit more accessible, but not overly, you've got something like Frequency, which is really good. If you like things a little bit more commercial, not that I brought them, there's Nomzamo, there's Are You Sitting Comfortably?
I had trouble with
That's
those.
the only two where I think they kind of go not so sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to echo what's been said by a few people already. So Road of Bones for me, I mean, myself and Peter did an album ranking of IQ quite some time ago, and we really gushed about just about the entire catalogue, to be quite honest, and it really does deserve it. But I continually come back to this one. I like this one, and I think it's possibly for somebody that likes intense music, the best starting point. The concept is you get inside the head of a serial killer. That is the Road of Bones. And the music conveys that very well, but without overburdening you with it. It sounds like something you would think, oh, that's too intense, it's too dark, it's too deep. I'm not going to like that. It does all of that, but it still hooks you in. Really like it. Great band. And I can understand where Ken is coming from. I think the evolution that they've gone on from the start to where they are now is really quite incredible. But they've made some amazing music right throughout that. So yeah, IQ, my number one as well.
Yep. George.
Number 1 is from Spain, Iceberg, mid to late 70s.
Did Pete forget something?
Pete, how did you forget that?
Like the Return to Forever of Spain, basically the closest thing I've heard to Return to Forever. It's particularly the guitar player and the keyboard player, very similar to Alan Chick. First album is a prog vocal album. Then you got 3 studio albums of just ripping Latin fusion. Then there's a live album that never quite clicked with me, but if you like late 70s Latin fusion, absolute must. This is Sentiments, but the other 2 are Costas Nostras and Arc-en-Ciel, just as good.
Max Sune, the guitar player, put out some very good solo albums. His first one, Babel, and the second one, Jacques Privat's, phenomenal. Like the best albums that Al Di Meola never recorded.
Ice Age, I love you, but Iceberg should be my number 2. I don't know how I missed him. I got the olds.
Y'all do.
Yeah,
It's a big problem.
it is a really big problem.
Pete, the look on your face was fantastic. You're like your head goes down. And
As soon as George pulled that album up, that CD up, I was like, oh man, how the hell? And here I've been bitching all week how I can't find any good I bands, other than a couple of, and I was like, pretty slim pickings, and I'm like, oh, there's another one too that I forgot until right before we went on air, and I wrote them in my honorable mention. I'll mention them at the end, but Chuck.
All right. I'm gonna probably go with mostly everyone else, and so my pick is IQ, and it's Ever.
Yes.
In my opinion, it's the finest hour. I'm actually quite happy that was the first album that John Jewett played on. I just felt that every song on this album clicked. It was less Genesee than everything that came beforehand, and probably even afterwards as well. So this album, to me, in my opinion, is the album that I usually refer people to, as far as the IQ goes. Although everything afterwards is just as outstanding as well. But I also second Roll the Bones as well. That's a great album. A band that just matured into one of these bands that that went from this neo-prog scene to being one of the best of their generation, man. IQ, and they're my number 1, and the album I picked is Ever.
And let's just be clear. He meant Road of Bones, not Roll the Bones.
Roll the Bones. Good Lord, geez, forgive me.
By the way,
I got the old.
the remaster, by the way, of Ever is excellent.
Yes.
Really, really good.
It really is.
Sonically really good.
Eric.
all right. Well, my number 1, Stephen, I don't know that we've crossed paths that much on this show, but we are going to cross paths here. I'm going with It Bites as well as my number 1. And the reason I've had a long history, even though they don't have a long history, my bass player in the band I played with in college, I remember him coming in with Eat Me in St. Louis. And we sat down and I know I've been hammering vocals. Francis is a very unique vocalist, but I love him. And I remember sitting down and listening to that. And to me, it was like the perfect blend of pop sensibility. You could tell the musicianship was top notch. And I'll tell you, when Francis and John Beck play together, they're incredible.
Yeah.
Their lines. And Francis is brilliant. I mean, I think of Francis almost as like Kim Mitchell. Max Webster had a lot of pop and everything else, but when Kim Mitchell starts playing a guitar solo, forget about it.
Oh,
He's
he's amazing.
And Francis is the same way. Now, I know his solo career, I was lucky enough where I live when Tall Blonde Helicopter came out. He did a residency in a bar in Saratoga, and it was acoustic. And it was for 4 weekends. And I think Randy Jackson from Zebra had done it. They brought in some fairly big name guys. And he was unbelievable and came out and talked with everybody after the show. Very small, intimate crowd. I don't, It Bites never made a mark here, so I don't think Francis Dunnery did much either. But fantastic musician. I love these guys. I actually went with Thank You and Good Night because I love the energy of the live record. but I can't say enough about him. And I know his solo career, he went acoustic and poppy, but I think he's just brilliant. I love Francis Dunnery, so that's my number one. Is It Bites.
And that's a really good choice of album you've made there as well. I was more just for entertainment than research, watching some of the live, I think it's Live in Tokyo material that's on YouTube through the week. Oh, wow. What a band. Absolutely on fire. And as you say, it's a band in sync. They need each other. And Dunnery and Beck together, playing off each other, but the singing, the vocals, they are just together all the time.
Absolutely.
It's really impressive stuff. And I was amazed when they came back with a different singer, and it worked. But it was no surprise that it was completely different. And they did a good fist of the old stuff when they played it live. But one of my regrets is not seeing Dunnery with them. That'd have been something.
He is doing a It Bites show, I think, maybe November in the UK. I think he does a bunch of, obviously not with the band, but I think he goes out and does It Bites material. I think that's coming up pretty soon, actually, Stephen.
Yeah, I've never seen him, so I really should change that, I think. That's a good shout.
You need to.
Yeah, you're right.
Ken.
All right, I won't tell my It Bites story again. So. All right,
Never heard of them
Pete screwed me
before in my life.
Mate, I never heard of them. So Pete screwed me with Island, so I'm scrambling here.
If that's your pick, do it.
Nah.
You don't have to. You don't have to call an audible.
No, hey, I got so much stuff here, guys. We're gonna be here all night anyway, so what the hell? So I am going with, this was actually a last minute thing. Isotope.
Oh, gosh.
So
That's
I
the
actually
band that
forgot
reference-
about
that
Isotope.
reference-
Shit.
I actually forgot about them, and then when I was pulling the albums for show and tell here, I was like, "Oh shit, here's Isotope." So this was the second of 3 studio albums, and then Mr. Feigenbaum did a nice album as well.
So right here,
Started by
golden section.
Started by Gary Boyle, guitarist Gary Boyle, and I don't know the exact chronology because he was in Soft Machine for 5 minutes, but Hugh Hopper was on the first album, and the lineup was constantly changing. They were, I guess, in a sense, you can make some comparisons to Brand X. There's a bit of Soft Machine in their sound. Maybe even, let's say, some Return to Forever. It's of that variety. It's British, very intense British jazz rock fusion, and Gary Boyle's just an amazing guitar player, and he made some really serious faces when he played, man. If you watch him on YouTube, man, he was very, very intense. Isotope, that's my number 3, and I'm very comfortable with it because, as I said, I forgot about them.
Yeah, they were the one band I was talking about right before we started recording. I was like, oh, how did I forget Isotopes? Like, they're in my honorable mentions. Yeah, really good band.
Yeah,
well, George, you listen to them, George.
Yep.
Yeah, good stuff.
They were good bands. Good band. They even got U.S. releases. You can find those records.
Yep.
Yeah, Esoteric remastered them like 10 years ago.
Yeah. And Gary Boyle's solo album, he had 2, Electric Glide and Dancer, 2 very, very good albums.
Yeah, they're good as well. Yeah.
So,
Eric, you taking notes there?
I got it too. Yes.
Yeah, Robin Lumley, if I remember, I could be wrong. Robin Lumley might have done, he did I think he produced the last Isotope album, Deep End. He might have done one of the Gary Boyle solo albums.
Yeah, he did.
Was it Electric Glide maybe?
I believe it was, yeah.
Might have been. So I'm not sure, but that one like has Simon Phillips playing on it, and Gary Moore's even on it. John Giblin from Brand X is on it.
Morris Burt's on it.
Yeah. The Dancer was his first solo. Robin Lumley produced Gary Boyle's first album, The Dancer. So his first solo album. Anyway, all highly recommended. Very underrated, overlooked guitar player. And an Isotope, a band that probably we're always talking about jazz rock fusion, a band that probably doesn't get enough mentions.
Absolutely. Yeah, great choice. Lewis, your final pick.
Well, can I say? I don't know if most people will agree that this is progressive enough for this program. I'm not going to call it Iron Maiden, don't worry. But I'm gonna call out a band that plays what I call progressive metal, which does not sound like Dream Theater. And it has fretless bass guitar. It has all manners of textures and arrangements and compositional styles. It has peaks and valleys. It's beautiful stuff. It's not for the faint of heart, but I'm a big fan of this band. This is Intronaut, and I am choosing the Direction of Last Things as my example of this band at their best. Oh, I love all their albums. This is not their most recent one. You can buy any one of their records, and they all have great things. The very first studio record they did, they had a lot of support from the bass player Justin Chancellor from Tool, but they're just a great band. They really, really are great. And if you want to answer the question, and you've never heard Cynic, well, here's another example of how you can get fretless bass to really make progressive metal music better. These guys are incredible. The drummer is off the chain. Everybody in this band is fantastic. So I would highly recommend that you try them out. Maybe you've never heard them. I know a lot of prog fans, they hear heavy, they wilt. I think that's very unfortunate, because some of the most adventurous and complex and interesting stuff has been done over the last 20 years has been heavy. And this is no exception. This is a phenomenal record. And this is the kind of band you can still see live for $30 and have them just completely blow your mind, you know? So this is, to me, one of those gems that you can very easily miss them, right?
What's the name of that again, Mike?
Intronaut.
This album is, the band is called Intronaut. This one is called The Direction of Last Things. But if you go through their Bandcamp, you'll see that any one of their studio records is great. This is my favorite. I think this has the biggest amount of contrast, light and dark, soft and heavy. And when they're soft, they're really soft. When they're heavy, man, they'll just knock your teeth out. Yeah. But it all makes sense. It's not look at me, look at what I can do, right? It's very musical, to me at least. So
yeah, they're a really good band. They're very experimental. They kind of come from a very similar background to Mastodon, whereas early in their career, they come from more of like a hardcore and sludge background, but then they adopted this kind of progressive mindscape, and almost like that style of music meets like kind of King Crimson. There's a little metalcore in the music. There's some drone. There's lots of math rock. I mean, it's just like they can be really complex and loud and crazy one moment, and then very atmospheric and experimental the other. Yeah, I haven't heard their last couple, but I listened to them quite a bit, like in the early mid 2000s, and really, really good band.
Like one of the things these guys do that not a lot of prog bands do is complex metrics. So they're not all playing in the same time signature. That's more like a Dillinger Escape Plan sort of move. Oh. But they really do a great job with that. It's amazing. So it's just good stuff. I mean, taste is subjective, but musicianship is not. And these guys got it. Intronaut.
Yeah, Dillinger is a good reference point, but they are different. But the herky-jerky arrangements are kind of it's a good comparison. All right, well, my number one, not to beat a dead horse here, but IQ. I often, as if you go watch the episode Stephen and I did 2+ years ago, I had a hell of a time trying to decide what my favorite IQ album is, and even to this day, 2 years later, I'm like, is it this? Is it this? Is it Road to Bones? Is it the most recent one? Is it Ever? They're all great. I highly recommend IQ. I think they're an absolutely terrific band. I love the vocals. I love the keys, the guitars. I love the their use of dramatic effect in their music. I like the darkness of it. It's all great. I love the long albums. I like the shorter albums. I like the early stuff. I like the newer stuff. IQ. It was, I didn't even have to give it any thought when I was putting my short list together for today. I was like, well, IQ is number one. That's all there is to it. So there you have it. Anybody got any quick honorable mentions? We'll go back to Chad.
Yeah, I got a couple. A lot of them have been mentioned. One thing I realized, though, as going through this, we had 6 I bands at Nearfest over the years. Pretty interesting. Anyway, so this was mentioned, inductee, Susar. We did not mention this Baltimore band, the Louvetar.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Also played at Nearfest, great neo-progressive band. I believe they were kind of ramping back up. Isn't that correct, Luis?
Yeah. They have a
They
show
are.
coming up in November, I think.
Yeah.
In November, yeah.
Iluvatar take longer to record than Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Next up is a band from Norway, real crazy sort of metal fusion. It's the End. I think George might know this one.
I remember that.
Really, really, really cool stuff. I think it's the only album they made, 2009. Really wacky metal fusion, progressive stuff. There's fruit on the cover. There's spiders and all kinds of weird shit on the inside. I don't know.
I could be wrong. I think Steve was trying to sign them.
The guys are a little nuts. Their stage names are Drudge, Wretch, and Quibble. So there you go. Mentioned before, Isildur's Bane, also a Nearfest band. Another one, Nearfest 2010, UK's Iona.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
More of a lush Celtic neo-prog feel. What's his name? David Bainbridge is sort of the mastermind guitar player there. Good vocals. There we go. Good vocals from Joanne Hogg. Last thing they did was a live album in 2013. Haven't heard much from them since, but Iona. And the last two have also been mentioned. That would be Ice Age and Is. And that's not the one I meant to pull out. I meant to pull out My River Flows. But there we go.
That's a great record. My River Flows is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Steven.
Nothing that hasn't been mentioned. Chad just pulled the last one from me, so that was Louvetar. I've gone for the most recent, which is still 2015. From the Silence, I mean, they're a Baltimore act, but man oh man, they sound British. Really good. Io Earth and Iris, which I've mentioned right at the top of the show. That's my thing.
Cool.
How many Lord of the Rings references do we have tonight? We have Silver Spain. We have
Louvetar.
There's a few.
Louvetar.
Prog bands love their Tolkien, right?
Yeah, don't
They do.
George.
I just had a couple. Isotope, like Ken mentioned. That one's my favorite.
I like that one.
And a band called Into the Night. This is a 2016 release. 2 Japanese brothers, guitar, bass, really sick players. The bass player is a teenager, really incredible player. I think their cousin plays keyboard, and drums are from the Fragile drummer Kozo. It's a fusion with a metal sensibility. I think they're metal fans too, but you can hear it. That's it.
All right. Chuck.
All right. Well, I had Louvetar as well. But I already spoke about Iona, excellent prog folk, and I also had It Bites as well. It Bites is a very strange band, so because when you listen to them, and so you hear the references to Genesis, but then they also talk about that they have influences from Level 42. You hear their influences from Eddie Van Halen, and Van Halen themselves. But that's one of these bands. They were just too eclectic for just and too many different styles for people to take them seriously. But they're one of my honorable mentions as well. And the album that I picked again was Once Around the World, It Bites. Those are my 3 honorable mentions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Eric.
I believe mine have been mentioned, but I'll just throw them out there anyway. Inductee, Susar, and probably too new for me to say favorites, but George introduced me to Iceberg, and then when we were at Ken's, I picked up another one of theirs for our our prog day at Ken's house, prog rib day at Ken's house. So I have enough listens to Iceberg, but I really like what I'm hearing, and I just need more time with them. So those are my 2 honorable mentions.
Okay.
All right, guys, sit back. Let me drive the bus. So
There we go.
I'll do this alphabetically. Steven's falling asleep already.
Well, people say we do.
All right. First, I'm doing these alphabetically. First one, I'll run through them fast. Is Iblis Supernova. When we did the Krautrock show, I mentioned it. There were connections to Kraftwerk. Great jazz rock with tribal rhythms. Get some long jams. Great shit. Got Iceberg, already mentioned. Don't need to discuss them again. When we did the Space Rock show, I mentioned this Yugoslavian band, Igra Stalin Perli. Unfortunately, did you ever get that, Luis?
No, we listened to it at the office with Mara.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. Yeah, great glass bead game. Great Yugoslavian space rock. This one may be the strangest title. It's by Akira Ishikawa and Count Buffaloes. It's called African Rock. It has Kimi Mizutani. It's very rare. Original copies are incredibly rare. It got reshoot on CD in Japan. And
I want to stop. What is that cover? What the fuck is going on?
Is that cover as boring as it looks?
Yeah, it's Akira Ishikawa sitting there smoking a cigarette, and there's not a lot going on there, but he's an incredible
Some kind of dictator.
Yeah, he's an
Yeah, that looks like that Libyan guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Akira Ishikawa is an incredible drummer and very prolific.
Next album's called Momar.
And he's got Kimi Mizutani playing guitar, and he just rips kind of psychedelic jazz rock exploitation. It's really cool. The other one that I know Pete knows, and George may know this, and audiophiles around the world know this. Masaru Imada Trio +2, Green Caterpillar. This has what's the name? Watanabe. Kazumi Watanabe. Yeah, I'm sorry. Kazumi Watanabe. It's almost like a tale of 2 albums. The first side is Kazumi Watanabe just going nuts on side 1. Side 2 is more straight ahead playing. You know, great, very rare. Audiophiles love it.
Ken, do these covers go out of their way to not represent what's inside them?
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
that genuinely looks like the sort of thing you play at a kid's party.
Yeah.
It's lunch today.
I mean, seriously, think what an awful cover that is.
Yeah.
Well, that green caterpillar is obviously a metaphor for a joint.
I guess, I don't know.
And
It's like a
there's
children's album, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a joint with lipstick.
And
It's very weird.
Yuji Imamura is playing conga. He's on that Great Air album.
Yeah.
So Yuji Imamura's Air. Another band that I can't find the vinyl. I think the cleaning lady stole it. Let's get rid of Glenn Harbiston. This is from Spain, Iman Califato Independiente. Very, very good.
You just lost all your volume, dude.
Well, there we go. I'm sorry. I accepted the phone call instead of disconnecting it. As I was saying, I think I can't find my vinyl. I think the cleaning lady stole it. So I've got the CD by this is the first of 2 albums by Iman Califato Independiente, Spanish band, symphonic rock, and very, very good. And next one from Yugoslavia, I think Bosnian band, Indexi, Moja Rijeka. Started out kind of psychedelic. This is like killer prog album from what year was it? In the 70s, 70s sometime. Great record. After that, not so good. Then we have Inductee got mentioned. Very good Italian band, kind of strange. A new band, Inugranaghi della Valle, released on Black Widow. This is their first album. Very much in the 70s, what they call RPI, rock progressivo Italiano. It sounds like a 70s Italian prog rock album. Their second album is very, very different. They got in a new singer. He sings in English, and they went in like a very contemporary direction. not as interesting, but this one is really, really good. And it has a kind of cool wraparound cover. We mentioned Inductee already. Isildur's Bonnet, we mentioned. And Island, we mentioned. So that's what I got.
Lewis.
Okay, so Isotope was mentioned.
Mhm.
This is the Stephen Feigeman released the Golden Ratio or the Golden Section, I guess they called it. Yeah, the Golden Section. They're related, same thing. This is a great record. If you like Hugh Hopper, if you like face melting guitar, this is a great thing to have. It has that of old British fusion that I really like. Now, the one that I had tied for my third
Wait,
place.
Luis, I just interrupt you 1 second. I tried to convince Steve to call it Golden Shower, but he wouldn't listen. Anyway,
I wonder why. I wonder why he didn't
I don't
listen
know.
to your
He
ideas.
doesn't appreciate my marketing skills. But
Always lowering the tone, Ken. Always lowering the tone.
Well, we don't know. We don't know who's watching this. Maybe somebody would have bought it just in the strength of the title.
I don't know.
I'm just saying. However, forging ahead, trying to keep my mind out of the gutter where it lives normally, is this record, which is actually quite beautiful. This is a Russian duo, I Am the Morning. And this one is called Lighthouse. For people who don't know what this is, you can go to K-Scope. They have all their records there. You have them on Bandcamp. My main draw to this band was the pianist, Gleb Kolyadin, who I think is an incredible musician. But he is joined here by a vocalist. I don't remember her name, but I will find it in a second. Mariana Semkina. And she does these incredibly haunting, ethereal voices over mostly piano. And in this particular album, they have Marius Duda of Riverside also lending a hand, and they have guests. This is a beautiful thing. And they have a new one that just came out sort of recently. They like to explore lots of very personal subjects. So it's very introspective. And there's a lot of lamenting the human condition in general. There's not, but they find ways to convey this message with beauty. They're very, very, it's difficult to hear this and not really kind of fall in love with it in a way. It's just that it's a little too happy for me, which is the only drawback for me. But it is really remarkable. And if you look at the artwork, I mean, come on, look at that cover. I'm trying to get my big sausage fingers out of the way, but that is a beautiful fucking image right there. Right? It has that quality that I love, that the image in the cover is, it only exists in the space occupied by the music. It's not supposed to be real. It's a place of the imagination, and it really fits the sounds. So this is not Gaddafi smoking a half cigarette he found in his coat pocket. It's not the Caterpillar joint. This is actually really well done, and the production is very, very good, right? And they've been mentioned before, but I would be remiss if I don't mention these guys because we have a long history together.
Love them.
Luvatar. All the years I was in Baltimore, these dudes were they were the thing over there, and I've been for many years been good friends with many of them. I know Jim Rezick, the keyboard player, used to work with the Nearfest crew as well.
Yeah,
and
for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm very good friends with Chris Mack, who was their second or third drummer, I forget. He's a great drummer from the Percussion Institute of Technology graduate. Great guy. He also played on Oblivion Sun's album. These guys are awesome. Dennis, the guitarist, fucking great. Cool guy. And Glenn, the vocalist, he can really do that style of singing. It is very much inspired by Genesis and that sort of thing, Marillion, right? So they're not inventing the wheel or attempting to reinvent it, but what they do really fucking well. They just do. In fact, they're normally a phenomenal live band. One of the things that really I thought was very unfortunate, they happened to have a somewhat off night when they did Nearfest, which is really, yeah, that's very unfortunate because those guys killed live. And I thought, all right, this is their chance. Are they going to play to bigger audience? And it didn't work. But I love these guys. I'm happy to know that they're going to do something new, right? By the time it's finally recorded, it's already old, of course. But and here is my ticket from the 2000 Near Fest when they played. So the Louvatar. This is a story 2 days wide. It was on the Kinesis label. I don't know if the Kinesis label exists anymore or not, but it's a great record if you can find it.
It really is, man. It's a damn good album. I printed it out and I forgot to put it out and printing it over here. It's a great album.
Man, much love to Louvatar. I think they deserve it.
Yep.
All right, all my honorables I think have been mentioned. I had Isotope, It Bites, of course, Iceberg should have been on my list anyway. The only band that has not, I don't even know if anybody has even heard of these guys. I believe they're Greek, Icarus, kind of like a progressive, like hard rock band. I think they're one and done album. I have it here in my collection. It's really good, very Hammond organ driven. Prog, like kind of heavy prog type album. That's really, really good as well. That's all I got. That's it. So stay tuned, everybody, for what comes after Jay next week. So we'll have Jay next week, and then the week after we're gonna deviate for a week into another topic and then hop back onto the alphabet. So we'll be kind of coming and going from the alphabet, take us through the end of the year. So thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure in the comments below you add in your favorite bands. We'll put all of ours in the comments as well after the episode airs. So look for that if you missed taking notes and you want to go out and check into any of these bands, which I highly recommend you do. And we hope to see some of you on Saturday at the Chance at Poughkeepsie, New York for Sea of Tranquility Fall Fest. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, what are you waiting for? Seems like everybody's waiting for the last week. I'm getting contacted left and right in the last 2 days. I just got my ticket. I'm trying to get a hotel room. Where should I go? I'm like, why are you waiting now? Because there's very little hotel rooms in the Poughkeepsie area between SOT Fall Fest and homecoming weekend for the two local colleges. It's gonna be a pretty crazy weekend in Poughkeepsie. So, but I heard we're getting no rain in Poughkeepsie this weekend.
Thank goodness.
Which is good. So we hope to see some of you then. If not, we'll see you back here next Tuesday. So visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together, all the damn time. For Chad Hutchinson, Stephen Reed, George Lemie, Chuck Alvarez, Eric Porter, Ken Golden, and Louis Nasser, I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you on Saturday at SOT Fall Fest, and we'll see you next week here in the Prog Seat for letter J. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.